Hi everybody, how are you? Bill Powers here. I just wanted to take a few extra minutes. A number of really good students have been having difficulty with calculating accumulated degree hours. Pull in a little closer here. It's a very confusing thing to learn online. It's a very difficult thing to teach online, but I thought I would just make a video and try to touch base with you. I'm going to post this video. I'm also going to post my calculations so that you can see how I determined the accumulated degree hours from the entomology chapter. A couple of things. Accumulated degree hours, there's 3 words in there, and I'll try to break it down into 3 separate categories, if you would. Accumulated means from what we believe to be the time of death till the time that the body was found. The degree is the temperature, basically. That's pretty straightforward, in Celsius, and the hours are the number of hours between the time that we believe the person was killed. Let me rephrase that. The time that we believe that the blowflies were able to get to the cadaver, to the deceased, until the time that the body was found. So there's 3 separate things there that we've got to calculate. So if we break it down into those 3 things, might be a little more simple. First thing is the hours, the number of hours between the time that the blowflies got to the dead person. By common consensus, the whole class, and accurately so, I believe, think that Candy was killed in the very early morning of the 21st of July. Last seen alive about 1 a.m. by her friends. Since blowflies do not circulate during the nighttime hours, they only go out during the day, I simply put in 6 a.m. for my own calculation. 6 a.m. meaning dawn on the morning of the 21st. If she were killed at 1 a.m. on the 21st, her body was dumped during the nighttime, excuse me, then the blowflies would not have gotten to her until sunrise. Since it was July, the middle of the summer, I'm putting 6 a.m. for sunrise. So from 6 a.m. until midnight on the 21st, 18 hours. Starting at 12:01 a.m. on the very early morning of the 22nd. So 1 minute after midnight on the 21st becomes 12:01 a.m. on the 22nd. From there until midnight on the 22nd is a 24-hour span. The morning of the 23rd, 12:01 a.m. to midnight on the 23rd is another 24 hours. And that same pattern follows for the 24th, the 25th, 26th, and the 27th. So six days of 24-hour days. The first one was an 18-hour day, and then 6 24-hour spans. The last day when the body was found, the 28th, from 12:01 a.m. until 3 p.m. on the afternoon of the 28th. That was 15 hours. When you add all of those together, you've got a total of 177 hours. So that's the first part of accumulated degree hours, is the number of hours. The next is the degrees or the temperature. What I gave you for temperature is in American Standard Time. I gave you 75 degrees Fahrenheit during the day and 63 degrees Fahrenheit every night. I kept the temperature exactly the same for all 8 days, which is actually not really the natural way to do things. I can explain that in a minute. What you have to do is convert the temperature from Fahrenheit to Celsius. Any of the sciences, forensic science is a science, any of the sciences work on the metric system. They use Celsius degrees, not Fahrenheit. So you've got to convert the 75 degrees for the daytime, whether you use a conversion calculator on your phone or on your laptop, or if you want to do the math yourself, take the 75 degrees, subtract 32 degrees, blah, blah, blah. 75 degrees Fahrenheit converts to 23.88 degrees Celsius. I rounded 23.88 up to 24. 63 degrees Fahrenheit at night rounds to 17.22 degrees Celsius. I rounded that down to 17 degrees. All right. So from here on, we'll be dealing with 24 degrees Celsius daytime, 17 degrees Celsius nighttime. That would be kind of the raw daytime average, okay? What you do is you add the 24 and the 17 together. That comes out to 41, and then divide that by 2. Divided by 2 comes out to 20.5. That will give you the average daytime temperature. Following that, you have to subtract 10 degrees Celsius, because below 10 degrees Celsius, the insects stop working on the bodies. They stop flying, they stop doing whatever they do to the bodies. That's called a lower limit threshold. So from the 20.5, subtract 10 degrees Celsius, leaves you with 10.5 degrees Celsius. That is the adjusted average temperature. You get the average by adding 17 and 24 and then dividing by 2. That's the average temperature. Adjusted average temperature is after you subtract the lower limit threshold at 10 degrees. So that number is 10.5 degrees Celsius. So we've done the hours, now we've done the degrees. Accumulate all of those together. Multiply the 10.5 times the 177 hours, and your total comes out to 1,858.5 accumulated degree hours. All right, that was the answer I was looking for. Subject to, I rounded off the Celsius temperatures. If somebody had put 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 5 a.m. for the very first day when sunrise, that's not a big deal. But I just wanted everyone to have an idea of exactly how this was done. This was a very simplified version of what actually happens. And as you might expect, in those 8 days, you're not going to have a high degree of 75 and a low of 63 every single day and then night. Not continuously. You may have a couple, but they're not going to be like that every single day. So what you would have to do, for example, on the first day of the 18 hours, get the high and low temperatures, convert them to Celsius, unless you already have Celsius, add them together, divide by 2, subtract the lower limit threshold for each individual day, and then add all of that together. That will give you the total, okay? What scientists do with this is it gives them a way to verify their original findings. They actually raise the blowfly maggots and all of the other insects that attack a dead body in the woods. They raise them in laboratories at a standard set temperature and calculate the number of hours to go to each individual stage, from when they're first laid to the first stage, second stage instar, till their pre-pupa, till the pupa. All of that is calculated in a lab under very controlled conditions. They can use that as a standard for that particular species of insect. And then when they go out in the field, they can calculate the variables, such as the amount of time and the temperatures there, and get the averages. When you use entomology to calculate a time of death, you are not going to get a specific July 21st, 1:30 a.m. There is too many variables, there are too many things, as you read in your text, that will change the amount of humidity, if the day is super hot, if the day is super cold, if it's very cloudy, if there is rain, if the body is buried, if the body is in water. All of those things affect the actions of the insects. So what you're getting is basically a time range. Use your forensic scientific time range. For example, in the text for the blowflies, it's at a minimum of 8 days to a maximum of 12 days for those blowfly pupa to get to that level of maturity. So on your timeline, you go all the way back 12 days to a minimum of 8 days, and you sandwich, that's the approximate time of death. In tandem with the lead investigator, he will come in and say, well, you know what, her two friends brought her to a bar on the night of the 20th and saw her at 1 a.m. on the morning of the 21st. That's pretty much confirmed. So we know that she was alive at least until 1 a.m. on the 21st, and you can narrow things down from there. The original problem that I took this from used 3 or 4 different kinds of insects with 3 or 4 different sets of characteristics and different days with different temperatures, and it became extremely complicated. And the timeline had like 3 and 4 different types of insects in it. So I super laid this back. I backed it off a little bit so that we'd be able to figure it out. But I think it was too much for online learning and online teaching, so that's why I wanted to make this. I'll be sending out an email alerting you that this is in the entomology folder, and I will send a copy of my calculations so that you can look at it. If anyone chooses to redo their calculations now that they know exactly how to do it, and I can adjust the marks. That's not a big thing. What's more important to me is that you know how to do this. I'm not worried about the dates and whether you made mistakes before. So I just want to make sure that you have an idea of how accumulated degree hours are calculated. Thanks. Bye.